Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, there's a very interesting new condition that I just found out about. It seems to be endless out there, and it certainly is. We're a very sick species for multiple reasons. And of course, there's all the high-techy stuff that people claim work that doesn't. The advanced medical science, it's science. That, of course, has multiple complications that you don't know until you've done it. And we're going to talk about something very, very interesting here called the galvanic problem. Metals in the body. We're not talking about micronutrient toxins like so many people have, heavy metals, leads, etc., which is another pandemic problem within everybody. We're going to talk about something that's even more strange. Well, I don't know if that's strange, but we're a sick society starting from the ground up. Not only are we a psychotic, evil, murdering, disgusting, filthy species, and I kind of buffered it there, so I wouldn't say my real feelings. So the whole idea, not only are we that, but of course, when you have a sick, psychotic mind, as the human species has, they're going to produce all sorts of bad stuff, and then they're going to deny it. What's odd about it all is that there seems to be the genius within human understanding, which is so profound, it is very much godlike. I mean, some people just get it and achieve amazing things. Other people don't. And even some of these, quote, geniuses, if you look at their personal lives or what they're doing, could be profoundly disgusting. So if we come from all these things, what does it all mean? Well, we're in the, of course, hell here, people. Just understand that. If you understand life really is worse than you could possibly think it is, things are simple. You're not too depressed. Well, yeah. If you grow up in life thinking that everything's wonderful and we're going to be the peace and love God and this is going to solve our problems, if you live in that delusional nightmare of stupidity, you're going to be pretty messed up. But, then people hide in things to justify their stupidity. Churches, political organizations, their own race, their country, whatever it may be, to live in a delusional soup of stupid. So we run into these things and we have to be very, very understanding of what's going on. So what happens anytime you do any kind of serious research is you find that there is no answers to anything. You're going to find exact opposites. And this is extremely difficult to be able to pick the right from the wrong, because you're going to have experts on both sides. And there's a problem with anybody that may be so-called an expert. But you have to go to somebody that has knowledge in areas, but you can't trust any of them because all experts are wrong a lot of percentage of the time. Non-experts, of course, don't have an opinion and can't be right or wrong because they don't know anything. But as I will be reporting in my next video, we're going to talk about some more radionic frauds and more lies and deceptions coming from practitioners and, of course, the good old spooky 2 people. But let's talk about this very interesting condition, and it's called, as well as metal allergies. Now, this is quite interesting, and I'm not sure people understand metals and everything else. First of all, when you talk about, and I never really thought about it myself until a few years ago, and then I said, I thought about it, and when you look at things, well, we're all taking vitamins and minerals, which we probably shouldn't and are worthless. But a mineral is a metal. So you got to eat the metal. So metals are required in your body to function properly. Things like potassium and magnesium, these are metals that help drive your body. So it's not the fact that you just need vitamins, which I'm not even sure we know what the right ones are, what they are. And of course, your body doesn't like to take in all this junk, even if it's natural, and certainly not in high potencies. None of that makes much sense. But that's another issue. But metals, and of course heavy metals like leads and everything else, we know are very toxic and kill people. And these get in your body and they're very difficult to get out. there is a process to get metals out, particularly these toxic metals, called chelation. This is rarely talked about anymore, but it's something that we all probably have a fair amount of these heavy metals in us. And what do we do about all this? So, but one interesting thing that if you're a well person and in general need some sort of surgery because you've broken a bone, maybe you're one of those bozo moron idiots coming from the rectum of a flea, who skis. Yeah, me go downhill with no control. It's fun. I'm like a moron. The amount of people who've been hurt and killed by skiing is unbelievable. But let's say you did that. Let's say you got into another bozo idiot. A guy rides a motorcycle, otherwise known as a death machine waiting to happen. So the whole idea, or you could be in some other thing. Maybe it isn't your fault directly. Maybe it wasn't from a stupid action, but you've somehow broken a bone or other things. Now, we hear about setting bones all the time. And of course, this is one thing I think, and I'm not sure if regular medicine is good at anything, but that's what they claim they're good at. So you set bones, you restore them, and everything else. We used to have things like casts that would hold the bone in place. Apparently, if it's really bad, you have things put in there like screws and pins and other things. And implanting metal in you, particularly people thought were inert, like titanium, is not the case whatsoever. Very interesting. And of course, if anybody would have researched science, they would have understand the galvanic problem. Now, I've been studying galvanism or galvanic energies for many years now, and this is part of my new technologies that I use, that I incorporate some galvanic energies in there, which are micro-energetic or electricity. And I don't think too many people know about it, and I wasn't really. You just think about the fact when you use electricity, and of course we really don't know what it is. They misnomer it. We've been told stupid things, and credit has been given to the wrong people. But galvanic, or Galvan, it was an Italian, of course, with Volta. Of course, the people that invent and discover everything, and then they try and take that away from them by naming it after an Arab German, which is your typical pollution of the world. So the whole idea is you have these, but they really discovered basic electricity, these two. So, and how was that done? How did you do it? Did they get a generator? I found the electricity. I have this generator here. Yeah, we feed it with a pizza. Well, no, it didn't work like that. And as I said, we don't know what electricity is. And the bottom line is that you're turning a generator, which is what nuclear power does, water, etc. You create steam to move a steam engine to crank out electricity, or water moves the turbine, etc. Wind turbines. So they're turbines, and by spinning the turbine, we produce a crude electrical energy. This is then fed into a grid. The grid then blah, blah, blah. So I don't think people care, and I don't think anybody knows anything anyway. But what's very interesting here is that a fairly, you would think that, well, this is just, you're just fixing a broken bone. This is what common medicine is good at. They make sure they hold it together with a pin or a screw. I guess that's important because if it's a bad break or some sort of problem, if you just have a cast on there, it's not really holding it well. So putting a screw in there, putting a plate in or a rod or whatever, and a lot of people have this, by the way. I don't know what percentage of the population, but you tend to hear this from a lot of people. Sports people, people in accidents, could be car accidents, could be anything else. All sorts of people have these metals in their body. Now, they're titanium. They're unreactive. They do absolutely nothing, right? They don't decay. Like stainless steel. Yeah, I just cleaned up and had to scrub up with basically Brillo pads to clean off my stainless steel that stains all the time and rusts. So more science. So the whole idea is that we have these problems, is that there really is no such thing as inert. And as a subtle energy physicist, a force energy physicist, which studies all this stuff, these are awesome energies. And the fact that they don't knock you over like being hit by a 2x4 is an illusionary factor that it's not doing you great damage, just like X-rays. You can get 1,000 X-rays and you'll feel fine for a day or two, and then you'll croak. So the whole idea is that this is the reality we have to look into, but there is a whole galvanic response. Now, galvanic basically is you take two different types of metals. Generally, it's zinc and copper. Now, you put these together usually with a little piece of paper or cloth that has some sort of wetness to it to start the conduction process. Some people add a little salt to that. And when you put these two things together, you create an electrical energy. Simple as that. So if you want to get more and more, you stack them more and more. And of course, this is what Galvani did and figured out, well, something is happening here. Then Volta came along and figured out that's what volts are named after. And then they started to increase this. And this process has been known really for thousands of years, the galvanic processes. I think there's the old Baghdad battery, which goes back several thousand years, which is basically just a galvanic little battery. And since it didn't really produce too much, nobody took it too seriously. But the bottom line is that people have known this effect. And of course, as I said, Galvani was the one that brought it to everybody's attention. And so that means that you have two different metals in your body, you're going to start generating electricity. Sounds cool, huh? You can run your own cell phone off of it. You take your little finger and stick it near the charging thing. And, you charge it up because you're an electrical energy. Well, the bottom line is that this is not the way it works. And the entire world, while your human structure is kind of this electromagnetic chemical battery, that's only part of it. And these have to stay in a very particular. Most of the energies that move and run your body are non-electromagnetic in general. This is something that common science is too stupid to recognize. So that's what really runs your entire body. But there is a major electrical pattern there. Your brain shoots off electrical little lightning bolts, and this is what keeps you functioning as a human. If this stops, it's called a seizure, and you fall to the ground in unconsciousness, and your lights are off, and you don't remember anything. You don't see tunnels. You don't see anything else. The light switch is off, and it is fascinating and, to a certain extent, mystifying and depressing. There isn't any spirits coming after you. There isn't any afterlife. Your light switch is off. But that's for another subject matter as well. So you're shooting these electrical pulses off, and if they are disrupted, your entire consciousness goes. Physically, mentally, spiritually. So it all goes. Very interesting to think about. But understanding that this is how electricity works from these two diverse metals, and there's ways of making this more complicated. Generally, you use zinc and copper, but other metals have the same effect when you put them all together. And it all is very, very interesting. And what exactly are we going to understand from all this? So, we have... Because very few people understand the actual process of things. But what does this mean in the when you start getting into this galvanic toxicity and other metals within your body? Well, you put this pin, let's say, even in a foot, and of course, it works well. Now, generally, these are never removed from the body. Now, there's some talk that pins may be removed in other places outside the United States. I'm not really sure about that or not. But the pins and screws all serve a good purpose. And that is to get the bone to heal. Generally, that's not holding things together by themselves. So the whole idea is your bone heals, generally becomes stronger than it was before it broke, and the process is done. You're not really depending on those screws or plates for any great extent in most cases. There may be some cases where it's used to kind of form an artificial bone, but that's another issue for more medical people. But in general, that once the job is done, it should be removed. But nobody does it, particularly in lazy, greedy, filled United States, which doesn't want to do a single procedure on you unless they get thousands and thousands of dollars. So let's leave it in there. It don't do nothing. Who cares? Well, it does do something. And it's important to have these removed. Now, there is a doctor, Scott Schroeder, and I will put a particular link to his YouTube discussion about all this, who was a pediatric surgeon and put a lot of particularly screws and pins in, not pediatric, it was a foot doctor, and did a lot of this stuff to heal people. And then he started hearing all sorts of complaints from his patients. And eventually connected all this stuff to this galvanic response, which is quite interesting. And he's been doing this for many years now, and he seems to be a very smart, intelligent, hard to say if you have MD after your name, but seems to be true in his case, and connected all the pieces together, and people were complaining of all sorts of physical problems after these screws were put in them, or whatever metal it is, wherever in the body. All sorts of things, from serious illnesses to constant problems, etc., all that seemed to happen after this metal was put in the person, because we get this galvanic response. Now, galvanic in itself, and there was even, which is something I've always been interested, the famous old Boyd batteries from 1880. Now, these were extremely popular, and people claim to get a lot of results from them. These were pendants that you wore on your skin, right directly against it, and the moisture from your skin would create a microcurrent in you. And people claim that this microcurrent from the outside in really helped them because their inner electromagnetism wasn't working very well. So this gave it a little boost. And these actual pendants, which were the size of pretty much a quarter to a 50-cent piece, had copper, zinc, German silver, and a few other things in there that they put into circles or discs that you then wore on your body. And these were very popular, and I've collected many of these. I find them fascinating, that it would be something like that. And there's something to galvanism, obviously. And let's remember now that galvanic response, or the galvanism, or whatever you call it, is a proven scientific law. We repeat this over and over again. It's not something that is contrived. Maybe it's happening. No. Galvanic batteries are used to this day and is how batteries work to a large degree. So this is not in question. This is not something we need to research, or we're not true about it, or some new age crystal holding stupidity. No, this is regular science. And Dr. Scott Schroeder, has researched this for many years now, being in that field and being smart enough to wonder what was going on. Because generally doctors will just dismiss this and you're a hypochondriac, you're a nut. This can't happen. No, it can't happen because you don't know what's going on, because you're a boob. Now, the problem is you would think, okay, well, you have a pin in your, and whatever it may be, titanium, I don't know what else they use. This is, as I said, thought to be a metal that doesn't corrode and everything else, which he again states himself is a fallacy. They do corrode. There is a release of energy and metal from there. So the problem is that these things slowly decay. And as they decay within your body, they toxify your liver and kidney and everything else. And it doesn't matter how much time it takes. But most people notice problems right away after having pins in them. It's just that it doesn't knock you down. I should say kill you. Now, a lot of people, particularly in the United States, don't quite understand that you have metal in your body, and most likely they're called fillings. So if you have a pin put in your foot and you have fillings in your mouth, you've just created a perfect galvanic machine to start producing energy in you, releasing metals 24/7. This is not healthy. Now, you may want to take in a little galvanic energy through a pendant or other things to stimulate your electromagnetic system that is part of your body. And this is perfectly fine. And of course, you can remove it and take it off, and it's not working at a high level 24/7. When you have something implanted in you, it's working 24/7, and this is very negative. So you're toxifying your body. All these metals are being released in you, and this creates a huge sickness problem. And again, this isn't me talking. Dr. Scott Schroeder, an MD of many years, I believe he's recently retired, and you will see the link down there. I recommend everybody go and listen to this. It's quite fascinating because it's another one of those mysterious, because we all have, why don't we feel good? How come you're sick? Nobody really knows. You get blood panels and other things, and it all comes back negative. Well, you're just a hypochondriac. That's what most doctors say. Particularly if you're a woman, you're just a fretting around. You're just neurotic. So this is what you run into all the time from common medical practitioners. Because if they can't figure it out, it means you're a nut, because they know everything. So, and I've seen this many times in medical practices, went through it with my family and even to myself. To some, they can't find a problem, and of course you're just a nut. So these are things to look at. So if you're having immune system or other problem, and you've had some sort of pins or screws put in you, this is something to look at. Now, one of the problems is that you're not going to get doctors to believe this, and they're not going to want to remove it. But anything in your body that is not needed, you should get the hell out of. Plain and simple. It doesn't serve any purpose once the bone is healed. So these things should be removed. The other interesting thing that happens with this, and of course, Dr. Scott Schroeder was able to track this, is that the minute these things were taken out, people felt well within days, hours, when this galvanic response was stopped from being producing in their body. So, and he's done it time and time again, and it seems to be a very quick fix. Remove the pin, remove the screw, and all is good. So the whole idea, if you got a pin somewhere, a screw in you, and you have also metal dental fillings, you're getting this reaction all the time. And you may have other metals. Some people, have several pins, maybe one in one part of their body and one in another part of their body. Well, I ran into this recently with someone, and so this is causing a terrible reaction. Now, if you have a serious problem where you've had a pin put in there, you may not be able to just yank it out. Now, if it's a screw or something, well, you can do that fairly easily, but it's unlikely you're going to get a doctor to do that, and it probably won't be even covered by insurance. Who knows? So this, again, is one of those many things that your common medical science doesn't know, isn't interested in, and feels that it's unimportant, which is, again, affecting people radically. The galvanic response is not mythical. It is not even in question. It's not if, ands, or maybes. It's not in a textbook. It is a real phenomena that happens when you do this process of putting two diverse metals in there or more. This is proven over hundreds of years. So let's not in any way think that this is some sort of a mumbo-jumbo from some goofball doctor, which there are many of, unfortunately. So this is something to look at, and if you're a person who has any problems and you have metals in you, and as I said, remember, you've got metals in your teeth, if you have pins, these will react with it. So this is going to be very common that anybody that has pins or screws or anything else, something to look at if you're not feeling well. Now, I don't know what percentage of people with screws and pins or whatever metal in them have this problem, but it's significant enough that it will toxify your body, and it's a really serious problem. And you're never going to think about this. You're going to go to your doctor saying, how come I feel so bad? And you're not going to correlate that with a pin that you may have put in months ago or years ago. You're not going to do it. Now, remember, metal inside your body isn't good unless it's a mineral nutrient. And then even with that, you have to make sure you have the right balances, etc. So I had some stooge say that, well, I wear metals and stuff because it helps me. It is not the same. And I'm not sure that wearing metals is all that great of a help. Anyway, metal in general is a primitive energy, and I'm not sure it helps wearing that. Generally, metals tend to grab negative energies, rings, watches, etc. Every time I test them on somebody, they have huge amounts of negative energy in them because you're wearing them all the time. You're going in and out. You're doing it when you're happy, sad, and whatever it is. So the metals are holding these kind of informations, which tend to be bad for you. People who wear watches, if you think that an electric watch is good for you, well, generally, if someone wears an electric watch and you muscle test them, it comes out negative, unless you're wearing a Tesla watch, which is putting out positive energies. So that little battery, that little watch there is not good for you. So something to be cognizant of as well. So this is all part of the process, things to understand, but as I said, I will put a link down below. This is something you should know about, particularly if you have family members that may have pins and screws in them, or you're not feeling well and you may have had it yourself. If you're a person who is doing any kind of alternative analyzing what's wrong with the person, particularly radionic practitioners, etc., well, this is something you should know about. This is something that if someone comes to you as a client saying they have energetic problems, what exactly is going on here, and you should be able to check that. Secondly, we're not really sure if someone has a bunch of metal in them, if you should be using frequency type machines, Rife machines, spooky googies, and all this other stuff. So this could be really affecting you if you're going to put frequencies into an already messed up body. This could be dangerous as well. So it's something to check and something to take into consideration. It is quite interesting. And I tend to think that it probably is a fairly high percentage of the population that may have these kind of things put in them. 20, 30%, who knows? But it is something that you should really be examining, especially if you're trying to figure out what's wrong with someone. Now, we are also unsure as a, quote, scalar energy practitioner, a homeopathy-based frequency type person, if these can be countered by using certain scalar countering rates. Can these be countered? Can these be done differently to stop this effect within the person? This is unknown, but certainly something that should be checked, and something that if you're talking to somebody, you should find out whether they have these things in them and see if you can counter them. Now, the problem is that when you have this going on in you 24/7, it's unlikely you're going to be able to counter it with any kind of scalar technology. If you could, most likely you'd have to leave the machine on 24 hours on that person to counter this effect. And of course, this could be a problem, but if it helps, certainly it would be worth it. Ultimately, it's like any other poison or anything that's growing that you shouldn't be growing, is you have to remove it. So removing this seems to be an easy fix for everything. And that's what's so nice about this particular condition that Dr. Scott Schroeder has outlined. The bottom line is that as soon as you remove the metal, that the condition improves very, very quickly, almost instantly. So you're stopping that galvanic response. You're not generating internal energy within you 24/7 of a negative reality, because your body cannot handle this. You want to have different energies. Your chakras need to be moving. Your third eye needs to be moving. There are all sorts of energies around your body and in it that you need to have functioning properly. When you have an artificial effect like this, it's very toxic, as well as apparently releasing all sorts of buildup of toxic metals within your body. So if you drink a concoction of titanium and that gets into your system, well, it's not going to be good for you. Plain and simple. You know, we all know about things like aluminum, at least processed aluminum, is all bad for you, and leads and other things. We all know that is a problem. So the whole idea is that this, again, is going to, if you have an internal galvanic response, it's going to be also increasing the negative energies of those particular minerals that are in you. So this is a whole rabbit hole going down, but the bottom line is there's no use overanalyzing this. You need to get the pins out. Now, it has been talked about that in some countries, and I'm not sure, I haven't been able to confirm this, that they remove these after the healing, and certainly makes sense. If you're living in the United States, most likely it's going to be difficult to get a doctor to do this, but certainly is something that you should look into that's critical. So there must be some people out there that will do this and remove these things, etc., once the healing is done. So putting anything in your body that's foreign is a bad idea. Using artificial chemical supplements and everything is bad. Your body is a fine-tuning running machine, and you have to not only feed it right and use all the right nutrients and minerals, but you cannot put foreign stuff in there. Your body will reject it. So, we live in this very chaotic time, this hell realm that we live in, where things are getting worse and worse. But here's an answer, and a pretty simple, easy answer that anybody can have done if you have these kind of problems. So do note this. As I said, check out the link below. This is another fascinating area that if you're a person suffering from anything, think about whether you have in your body. If you're a practitioner of some sort, if you're a scalar practitioner, a homeopathic practitioner, you need to ask the people you're working with, do you have this? So this boils down to an easy fix physical problem for most people. And that's what you have to look at. And it's really unfortunate. Now, people have talked about this before with fillings and everything else. People that have metal in their mouth. A lot of people, when it is removed, when they take the metal out, that they don't have problems in general. And this has been going on for 20 or 30 years now, of removing all of the metal that is in your mouth, etc. So this is something for everybody to look into as well. But if you have pins and stuff, this is definitely something. So keep that in mind, all you practitioners out there, all you people that may have strange immune system problems which came from nowhere. Well, here's something that needs to be looked into. The galvanic reality is 100% physical reality. Now, it is unlikely that this is going to be able to be balanced off by scalar instruments, but it is something that has to be looked into, and when and if I'm able to do that in the future, I will report back on it. Until next time.